Greetings, everybody. We're so glad to have you here today. My name is Kelly Wendorf. I'm the founding partner of EQUUS. We're a leadership development organization. And we're streaming to you from all around the world and also at Thunderbird Ridge in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where we are on voluntary lockdown so that we can put an end to this virus sooner and keep everybody safe. We're running our offices virtually from places all around the world, and we are seeing our clients virtually and running our wisdom circles remotely as well. So welcome. We have 100 people with us today, and we're so happy you're here. Some of you have been to Thunderbird Ridge and worked with us and worked with our horses and our team. Some of you haven't been here, but you've worked with us in different capacities, friends and family around the world. And some of you are here for the first time and checking us out, and we're really glad that you're here. We know that your time is super valuable, and the fact that you've elected to spend time with us this morning means a lot to us. And with so much changing every hour, every minute in the world, we hope that what we have to offer you today is of some support during these times. We have for you 5 panelists to speak to you about different things, different areas where you may find yourself challenged, to support you. And they have lots to share and lots of resources and expertise in their areas of focus. And I'll introduce you to all of them in just a minute. So after each panelist has spoken, they're going to have about 10 minutes each. Then we're going to have time for Q&A. And there is a feature at the bottom of your screen that says Q&A. And we suggest that you feed your questions in that feature. And we will do our best to answer as many questions as possible. We'll seek to pull out the questions that seem to be most urgent and most pressing and that a lot of people seem to share. And we also have a chat box if you have just any comments or anything you wish to share in the chat. And we'll do our best to just pull everybody in so that we can all be part of this shared conversation. So let me just introduce to you our panelists. And panelists, if you wouldn't mind to just wave so we know who you are. Our first panelist today is Mary Elaine Baker. Mary Elaine is the founder and president of Patriot Advantage, which is a boutique business that provides virtual solutions for small businesses and entrepreneurs for marketing and administration. We've been running our business online and virtually for years and would not be able to do what we're doing now had it not been for Mary Elaine. So this is why she is here with us. And she'll be talking to us about just tips on how to run your business from home, how to run your endeavors online and working from home and how to deal with some of the challenges there. Our next panelist is Adam Ram Charan, and he comes to us with just years and years of contemplative wisdom experience, somatic coaching. He's an EQUUS faculty member, and he will be speaking to us today about somatic anchors and ways to ground oneself in presence, and not just philosophically, but really viscerally be able to create resilience for your heart and mind and body in these times. And then we have Niccole Toral, who is also an EQUUS faculty member. Niccole waved there, yep. And Niccole is a Lakota initiated shaman and pipe carrier and ceremonialist. She does our medicine work at EQUUS. And she'll be talking to us from a bit more of a broader point of view about what we're looking at here with the coronavirus and what opportunities it has to present to us in terms of our individual and collective initiation. Please welcome Dan Weil. Dan. Dan is currently in Los Angeles. Dan is also an EQUUS faculty member and a coach. And he will be speaking to us about how being of service helps us to be more resilient and intelligent in these times. And last but not least is Scott Strachan, my life partner and co-founder and founding partner of EQUUS. He is a coach and has, as a serial entrepreneur who's helped many businesses survive and thrive in hard times, he's got a lot to share with us on the financial end of things. So without delaying any further, Mary Elaine, if you could take the mic.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here and an honor to be here with all of you. And I am currently in Savannah, Georgia. I grew up here and it is beautiful here today. And I am also a mother of two. I have a 9-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son. And I'm married to my husband, Brett. And we are the co-founders of our business. So we work hand in hand with everything that we do. And like Kelly said, we support entrepreneurs with everything virtually for their business. So I'm gonna touch on some points that I think a lot are experiencing right now, some pain points on either having to work remotely for the first time ever, and having to balance working from home and having to homeschool children. I think a lot of people are experiencing this right now. So I also am a former educator. I was a teacher for about 5 years. So this is actually very comfortable territory for me in having to balance both worlds. So the first thing I would like to suggest is keeping a routine, keeping rituals and some structure in place for yourself and for your family. So keeping that morning routine, getting up and actually getting ready for the day. I know it's really hard to resist the urge and staying in pajamas all day long, but it really does set the tone for, okay, I am preparing for work. And that can be, you know, making your bed, putting on actual clothes, actual real working clothes. You could still dress comfortably, but preparing for the day helps kind of set you mentally and your children mentally of, okay, we're about to start. And sticking to those normal bedtime routines also helps children with just being happy and just being willing to be awake and work with you throughout the day. So I personally have used block scheduling for a long time, and that really has helped me be able to create structure for myself. So when you're working from home, no one is there telling you when to start work, when to stop work, when to transition. So I block schedule everything throughout my day, including my lunch breaks, my time to just go outside and chill and relax and be in nature, my time to use technology, get on my phone, because it is so hard to resist the urge of being on and working all day long and being sucked into your computer or your phone if you don't kind of create that structure for yourself. So I know for me personally, when I started working from home, I found myself working from the time I woke up to the time I went to bed. And I was always tuned into the needs of everyone else in my business. And it was really hard for me to tell myself, okay, it's time to clock out, Mary Elaine. It's time to be present with my family. It's time to go for a run. So anyway, those are my biggest tips with having to balance the two worlds of home, family, and work whenever it's all under one roof, literally. So there are some tools that, there are time tracking apps, time tracking software that you can use, and I've sent that in. I think, Kelly, you have a list being compiled of resources right now, so that will be available to you. And you may not have to technically clock in, but it really helps monitor your time whenever you're forcing yourself to clock in essentially and monitoring how long you're spending on each activity. Okay, so there are some common challenges and pitfalls that everyone experiences working remotely with a team in communication, accountability, maintaining culture, maintaining your culture of your company, and leading from a distance. So I want to touch on those things. Accountability, we personally have used a task and project management tool called ClickUp for a while. We used to use Asana. There are a bunch of them out there. ClickUp is our favorite. And really this helps with organizing all the projects, ideas, tasks, and knowing what each person on your team is responsible for. So you set due dates for everything. You can have chats and conversations within those projects. But it's really important when you're delegating at a distance to make sure that after you delegated something to check in midway and then check in again at completion. And that brings up the next point of that communication factor. It is now more than ever so important to emphasize the importance of frequent and consistent communication on your team. When you're not physically seeing someone in an office every day, you're not reminded of what's going on in that person's world and what they're responsible for. So right now, what we have done, not only to maintain company culture, but communication, I'm checking in with my team every single day. I am making phone calls to each person on my team, just checking in on how they're doing, first of all, and how they're managing their own balancing of working, home, and life, and also just to check in on the projects that they're working on. We also have implemented some fun virtual casual dates that we've had. So we're doing happy hour on Wednesdays. We actually have one tonight. We're doing a virtual Fun Friday this Friday. So this is just a time to check in again, get a pulse on how everyone is mentally, physically, spiritually, what's going on in their home, to get a little just social interaction and to help maintain that culture. You know, there's so much stress happening everywhere right now, and it's just so comforting to know that you're in the same boat as everyone else. You may feel isolated at home, but really you're not alone. Everyone is in the same boat right now. So getting that face-to-face time and touching base with everyone is so important. Another tool that we're using right now it's an app called Echo. And it's a prayer app. You can use it for meditation as well. But what you can do is have groups of people. So you can have a group for your family, you can have a group for your workplace, and everyone puts in there what is going on in their life and what they would like other people to either pray for or just be mindful of what they're going through. So you can also see, it'll send you a notification when someone has been meditating on or praying on your request. So that is a way that we're also keeping connected and just caring for each other and loving each other through this time. And I think as leaders, and we're all leaders here, as leaders, we all have a responsibility to take care of each other, especially when we're all going through this crisis. So I'm not sure how I am on time. I think am I good? Okay, thank you. All right, so I just want to say that, just to reiterate, keeping structure for yourself. I know it's hard, but even just having a set time of when you start work, when you stop work, and staying consistent with that time, and then finding creative ways to maintain that culture in your company and maintain a pulse of how everyone is doing. So, you know, technology is honestly a blessing for how we're all going through this crisis right now. Technology is a huge blessing. Let's lean into it. Let's use it. And yeah, thank you so much for your time. I welcome all questions, and I am here to help you and support you.
Thank you so much, Mary Elaine. That's fabulous. Everybody, thanks for sharing with us. We didn't have a gallery view, so you didn't get to see everybody waving. So Mary Elaine's extended bio and links and everything are on our website, as is everybody else's. So this is just the beginning of the conversation, and that was so helpful. So our next panelist is Adam Charan. We call Adam Ram. So this is Ram.
Yeah, I have a man of many names. Okay, so thanks a lot, Mary Ellen. I mean, that was really, really helpful. Some great ideas for people who have real challenges now with how to navigate working from home, balancing family, so much to do, how to deal with it, how to maintain some regularity. Other people have another kind of challenge, which is suddenly too much time, not enough to fill up, their schedule. So, in a way, I'm sure many of us have come across this, in social media or whatever. We can reframe this time as an opportunity for really intensive self-care retreat. We many of us have a lot of time on our hands, and some of us, probably have done some retreat time and find that it can be very, very valuable in moving to a new place. So, if you look at the way this is being portrayed, it's, lockdown and shelter in place and these kind of scary words. I think can be an initial really great reframing to shift it to self-care time for caring for the whole. And I'm just going to run through briefly some kind of a few practical ideas, a few kind of more theoretical framework ideas about, different aspects of self-care, primarily body, mind, and spirit, and how those can interact and help balance each other. So I'm going to do a little screen share moment here. Okay. Yes. Okay. So I'm just going to go through what I'm calling somatic and presence-based balancing exercises, resources for processing trauma in times of challenge. So that feeling of unease that a lot of people are feeling now, it's really collective and individual trauma. And there's a lot of resources out there for finding ways to process trauma so that it not only doesn't overwhelm us, but it can help us move into a new way of being. And it's a very deep subject. I've got a very 10 minutes here to kind of explain and go over this. So let's just move ahead. And I want to explain a bit about somatic and presence-based exercises. You see on the left here, I wrote somatic exercises. On the right, presence-based contemplative exercises. The somatic has more to do with the kind of, gross matter, our physical body, but not just the body, really our experience of the body. So coming in contact with how we feel when we move, how our body responds to our environment, how it responds to our thoughts. And there's kind of a spectrum here between the more gross body and the more subtle aspects of our experience. That means, yes, emotion is more subtle, and even more subtle than that is how are we being present with what is. And again, I'll try to go through, some of the ways that we can get these aspects to connect, because what happens is, if you look at the bottom here, when we have a traumatic event or a traumatic arising in our body mind, the tendency is to dissociate. So the body and the mind go in very different directions. So it can be very difficult, you might find, to see, how do I really feel? What's telling me I feel that way? And that to reestablish that connection, that communication between the consciousness and the body, that in a way unblocks the trauma freeze. We can get a free flow of energy happening again. And that is what leads more to a feeling of healing, wholeness, wellness, and resource. So it's really about unlocking the freeze and healing this split that the mind-body tends to automatically go into in a traumatic situation. So, I've done some study of work of Peter Levine, this somatic experiencing, and one thing that they found in studying trauma is that during a trauma, we kind of got an ongoing one here. as much as you can return to a place of resource, whatever brings you to a place of wellness in yourself, to that degree, you will stay well, you'll stay healthy. You'll not carry an imprint. So I'm gonna stop the screen share here for a moment. First thing I'll talk about is, just simple things, what to do with the body. It's really important to keep exercising. If you're kind of, pretty much staying inside, the tendency can be to be online a lot. Whatever it is, stay a bit focused on your work. Very important to keep an exercise routine here, whether that's, yoga. Dancing is a great thing to do at the moment because it really shakes a lot of the traumatic energy out of the body, and it's actually fun. So fun is really important in managing trauma. Again, I'm going briefly through this. Another thing to do is to take some time for some deep relaxation. There are a lot of online resources for guided relaxations, yoga nidra. Those can be very, very helpful. And then moving a little more subtle from the body, it's important to just check in with yourself and see how you feel and scan your body. Just even in this moment, you can check in and see, what's the state of my body? What are the sensations telling me? Again, the more you stay in contact with that, not obsessively, but just kind of gently checking in, the more you can regulate yourself. And then locating within your body a place that feels okay. So there may be this sense of anxiety or tension, but if you move your attention elsewhere, you can find, like for instance, my legs feel really comfortable right now. So resting my attention there, my nervous system comes down. Another thing to do is not just locating a safe place in the body, but if you look around in your environment, it can be very grounding. Look around and see something that feels nice to look at. If I look out the window, I see a tree and the blue sky, and just to be with that and sense, what does that do to my felt sense? These exercises seem very, very basic, but they're really very helpful for grounding through this. So there's that internal resource of how does the body feel, the external one of a comforting vision, or you can also imagine moving the mind from, whatever it's obsessed with, just to imagine something very positive, a place you love to be, your happy place, and check in, how does that feel in the body? So a lot of this gets to exploring how we can shift the felt sense from something that's uncomfortable back to a place of ease. And another place that, people often get very caught up is getting very involved in the narrative. So that's part of a dissociative split. Body believes it's not safe, so it goes into a lot of stories. And typically, left to itself, our mind will create a lot of negative worry-based story. So starting to bring awareness to and checking in, what am I telling myself about the situation that actually I probably have very little basis for knowing is true? There's a lot of fear and anxiety in the collective now. And that's, in a sense, it's the mind projecting some negative story onto what it can't know. So you can either just stop the negativity, or let's say there's a thought like, we're all going to die, like this year. So that's a really anxiety provoking thought. To shift that and just say, well, we're all going to live, because actually we don't know. So if you're going to believe something, it might as well be a positive thought. And then noticing how reframing in a positive way the narratives, that starts to shift the felt sense to more ease, so we can come into what I call just basically resting in the moment. So people following pretty well here? Yeah, okay, good. Let me screen share again. Quickly, when we're resting in the moment, I'm calling it that the orientation shifts to a contemplative presence. So presence is really, it's a non-objective, it's non-conceptual, it's just the light through which we experience everything. And it doesn't have conflict with anything that happens. So that place is always there in all of us. And for me, this is a very important resource for us to cultivate this time, to come into that place where no matter what our mind is telling us, no matter what happens? There's something that accepts it. It's okay with it. And to move from that, to like ground ourselves in that, that is such a valuable, at these times of challenge, such a valuable resource. And we can look at things like contemplating impermanence. A lot of what we want to do is to maintain our continuity, our permanence. If we let go a bit and say, you know, this too shall pass, there's an expansion that happens. We can sort of shift out of this tight contraction around time and fitting everything in. We have an opportunity now to expand and actually see what in us is not limited to time or even our story, you know, moving more into a place of self-transcendence. And just briefly, I'm developing a lot of resources. I'm going to work on, you know, EQUUS, I think will bring across a lot of online classes, movement, contemplation, and then really closing the circle as you know yourself as awareness to bring that back to the body. That really nurtures the body, unwinds the trauma. It's this kind of weaving of the subtle and the gross aspects of our experience, and something I call dynamic aliveness beyond ideas. And to bring it back to what I mentioned in the beginning, you know, how dancing, we can find that, you know, as conscious beings, there's always this dance going on. And, you know, we can know ourselves and enter into that consciously and joyfully, or, you know, stay locked in kind of a more contracted state of avoidance. The opportunity really here is to be in a deep state of presence and enter into that joyfully. And then from there, we see what we can bring to the situation. So I kind of need to stop there for now. I might have gone over my time a bit, but I hope that was clear to everybody. Like I said, I've got a zillion ideas. Kelly, Scott, and I, I'm sure, are going to be bringing across some great stuff through EQUUS. So thanks, everyone. Kelly, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Ron. That was awesome. So our next panelist is Dan Weil, EQUUS faculty. Over to you, Dan.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm talking today about service and how that can influence our wellness and wellness of the community. I was pointed to a book this week. Thank you, Kelly. And it's called "The Best Care Possible: A Physician's Guide, a Physician's Quest to Transform Care Through the End of Life." And in this, Ira Byock says, "We are at our best when we serve others. Be civilized." And I was reminded of a story and a question about, you know, what is being of service? And it can be, to me, something that's small or something that's big or something that's small in those big moments. And so I want to just relay this story that's one of these small moments. And so this week, someone close to me, let's call him John, was in the market and standing in line at a register. And John noticed that the person in line at the market register in front of him picked up one of those separator bars that you put between your order. And so John thought, I am not touching that thing. There's no way I'm touching that. And so the person who's in line in front of him noticed this and noticed how John is like loading the register and putting stuff on, but there's this space between the orders. And and all of a sudden blurted out, "Oh my God, I touched that. Why do I keep touching everything?" And he was really kind of freaking out a little bit. So John said, wait, hold on. And digging into his pocket, he pulls out a small bottle of liquid gold, hand sanitizer, and said, here, put your hands out. We've got this. And the person this person he was interacting with said, with a huge relief, said, "Wow, you're so cool. Thank you so much." And I think it's a great little moment of how we can be in service in that way. And in this small moment, I notice a lot. I notice humanity. I notice care. I notice presence, generosity, community, and connection. And so I wonder what maybe you notice in this as well, because we all have different things that we bring to the party and what we notice. And so a question I have that maybe you can take with you is, what creates wellness in moments like these for you? And beyond kindness, what other ways might you be in service to others? I was talking with a colleague who's actually on this call with us today. Hi, Ron. He said something really great to me earlier this week. He said, the only way to connect with my heart fully is thinking of being in service to others. And that really struck a chord with me. I really loved it because it just feels so right and so true. And he reminded me that I have plenty of gifts to offer to others, and said to lean into these. As soon as he reminded me of this, I began to kind of leave the focus of on myself and begin to notice what others are creating in the world. And I started to see more things like professional webinars that people are doing online, self-mastery online meetings like AA meetings, families connecting online, online dance parties and cocktail hours and gameplay. Neighbors are also helping each other where they can with going and doing grocery shopping or pharmacy runs or things like that for neighbors who can't. And I'm reminded here about something that we as coaches know well. And actually Scott on our panel said this recently to us, that connection isn't about proximity, that we can build connection in other ways. And this whole discussion about being connected with each other in this world is just, really great, and something that I think we all need. So in noticing what else other people were up to, I noticed, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Bon Jovi has this great fun project. And he's invited the world in to collaborate in building a song. And he posted on his website, bonjovi.com, and he posted this: there are uneasy times we're dealing with, but we're all in this together. I wrote the first verse and the chorus. Write me a verse, tell your story. Hashtag do what you can. Write your own verse and post it on your social media using hashtag do what you can. And I just think that's a really great creative thing to connect with people, to build community, and all of the wonderful things that brings in. So my invitation to you is to maybe do these things. Take good care of yourself and those around you. Dip into your own hope, your strength, your intuition. Name and write down what your own gifts are. And be fair and modest, not modest, but be fair and creative with that. What can you offer with your gifts? And consider your contribution to creating your own wellness and your community wellness, even in small moments like these. And that's what I have for you this morning.
Thank you so much, Dan. I really appreciate that. And, we're encouraging people in the live chat as well, if they have ideas about ways to be of service, that we will sort of feed those throughout the call. That was wonderful. Niccole, over to you.
Hi, family. How is everyone? So I'd like to begin like I would in a spirit-oriented way, okay? So I'm just gonna ask you to close your eyes, ground and root your feet, feeling a deep connection with Earth Mother, feeling a deep connection with the earth energy right now. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the nose, and just breathe. Okay? And in this moment, contact your spirit guides, whoever they are, okay? Contact them right now. Whoever they are, God, goddess, source, seahorse, whoever they are, contact them right now and hold your absolute certainty that you are in the presence of infinite love and abiding from our great mother, who in this time is calling out to each of us right now in a big, big way. And she is a mother of infinite love, support, nourishment. And she will love us unconditionally, no matter what goes on. So I have a little spirit song, and it's a song that is Scott will enjoy this because it's a song to the bear, okay? So when we feel we need a lot of support, we reach out to that fierceness, which is represented by the grizzly bear. That fierceness, that fierce commitment that we need, this commitment and dedication to one another, to each other, even more in this time of challenge and change. All right, here we go. Yani owe yahuwe ne. Yani owe yahuwe ne. Owe yahuwe ne. Hey ne. Yani owe yahuwe ne. Yani owe yahuwe ne. Yani owe yahuwe ne. Owe yahuwe ne. Hey ne. Yani owe yahuwe ne. Yani owe yahuwe ne. Yani owe yahuwe ne. Owe yahuwe ne. Hey ne. Yani owe yahuwe ne. Yani owe yahuwe ne. All right. Had to put that down, but thank you for holding that song. It's a fierce song. It's a fierce stance. And we need to be fierce in this time. So this time is really about uplifting yourself to whatever spiritual guides that you have, and in particular to root and anchor even more with Mother Earth, okay? Because she's devoted and committed to us, and she has devoted and committed to us for time in memoriam, over 1 billion years. And she has loved us through all of this. And now we need to create a different relationship and a right relationship with her right now. It's so important and it's so potent. And we can look at these times as our rite of passage, a collective rite of passage, an initiation. And initiations and rites of passage always occur in times of crisis. That is what pushes us to cross the threshold. And so this time is going to be a time where we need to dive even deeper and more thoroughly and be brutally honest with ourselves and how we're showing up and how we're doing whatever we're doing. Brutal honesty, okay? This is the call. And to connect in a fierce way with each other, virtually. I'm holding you, I have you right here. We're a community family, okay? And I have a lot of love for this humanity, but we have gone clockwise, and our Western wall of madness has gone clockwise. And all of this stress that has emerged and arisen through a virus, right? Shamanically speaking, this virus is a lower vibration, okay? We consider it a low frequency. And what we need to do is elevate ourselves so that we can be more spiritually mature and arise to this so that we are rising our frequency and our energy to be more aligned with Mother Earth and creating that direct relationship that is so clear, crystal clear, no confusion, no distortion, no influence of any ego perceptions. And you have to stand even more so firmly in your spiritual practices, whatever they are. Adam Ramcharya already spoke to that. Even Mary Elaine spoke to those things, creating the schedule, carving out that time to do whatever those spiritual practices are, even double your spiritual practices, people. Please double them, okay? Whatever they are, whether they're singing or drumming or saging or taking your shoes off and standing in your outside porch on the ground, connecting, closing the eyes, firmly understanding what it's going to take to completely root and anchor. Because I'm going to tell you right now, fear and panic is more contagious than a virus, okay? I'm not saying that we don't have moments or we don't have waves. Yeah, we do, all of us. Uncertainty brings that. But the bridge right now is connecting firmly to Mother Earth and understanding how I can reframe and reroute my relationship with her so that it is more in balance. And look at those ways. Where am I feeding myself physically? Where am I feeding myself mentally, spiritually, emotionally? How am I doing that? Am I sharing that with others? Because wisdom, mature wisdom, comes from mature practices and comes from doing them more often and more frequently and connecting with community. Here I am, singing virtually. This was my first, grizzly bear song virtually over the internet. It has been great. And I love sharing that medicine because the medicine will carry us. It is time tested and will upstand any virus or any pandemic. I promise. I'm going to keep doing me and my part and share that with you. And however I can, and I encourage you to do the same. And learn and look at that brutal honesty. How are you out of balance? Look at that bigger wheel, that medicine wheel. That's for another talk, another little big possibility of a virtual class to really look at those pieces and parts that have gaps or that need to be filled in. Okay? Because again, this is a lower vibration, a lower frequency, this virus. And it is a test of spirit, shamanically. All of the spirit guides are calling and testing us. What do you got for me? They're calling out. And so, yeah, pick up that white telephone to God right now. Pick it up. Because, man, this is the time, even more so. So however you do what you do it with excellence. Do it all in, not just one toe, all in, baby. We have to be, so anyway, just consider this an opportunity for deeper engagement, deeper connection, and wholehearted honesty and authenticity. And how can I touch in with Mother Earth? Because she has a deep cry right now. And we call this deep cry a lament. And she's asking us, she's crying for a vision. And in the simplest terms, the Lakota word omblecha, which is vision fast, vision quest, is crying for a vision. What is that vision? Personally and collectively. It's a big deal right now. And so we have to knit together this huge quilt so that we can create this collective vision that is different than the disorganized and the confusing and cloudy narrative or story that is happening right now. Okay, I'm seeing the little marker, but I love you guys so much. Yeah, namaste, highest infinite love and blessings, okay?
Thank you, Niccole. Wow, for your fierce calling, your grizzly bear calling, which is a perfect segue to Scott, whose spirit animal is the grizzly bear. So Scott, over to you.
Okay. Wow. How do you follow that? It's interesting, and I've got notes which I'm going to be glancing down at. Some of them are for specific numbers, which seems a far cry from where we've been so far in this webinar. But I think that actually it makes the most sense now more than ever to encompass everything that all of us have brought forward. Mary Elaine on, you know, there's a connection and commitment to self when we talk about time blocking, about luxuriating in a kind of selfishness to where we're not working from morning till night, for taking time for us, because we can't give to anybody else anything that we won't give to ourselves. And Ram Charan, you fit beautifully in your background. It's your information, all that you brought forward was incredibly powerful. And Dan, just such a great grounding, such great examples that you pointed to. And it is about compassion. It's about humanity. And Niccole, I think you summed that up and really brought it back to a grounded place. And all of you have reshaped what it is that I'm going to talk about. And I'm going to start just with a couple things. Well, actually, I'm going to start with a lot of stuff. But the first thing is, I've been kind of looking at what's been taking place in the world and have kind of categorized simply, we're either moving through this in a way that's smart, skeptical, or scared. And skeptical includes denial, callous indifference to what's taking place, and obliviousness. Scared is when our prefrontal cortex has given way and our irrational brain is online. And that's when we go out and buy, 200 rolls of toilet paper, which really doesn't do much in the way of curbing a virus. It's just a fear contagion that we're putting out in the space, which becomes social contagion, which really starts to make everybody in this deep, deep, dark pool of irrational behavior. So I'm going to bring this back to some numbers and some examples of my own. And I went through in 2008, one of the companies that I owned was a banking finance company. So I've got a pretty good sense of, I learned a lot, let's put it that way, through 2008, being somewhat at the epicenter with some of the projects that I had running at the time. And it's with that learning I want to present some of the things that I've got now, because there are things that we can do. And it's time for us to start looking not at what's missing, but what it's there. And some of the things that are there through the research that we've been doing, and this is all in real time. So it's always changing, it's constantly changing. So it behooves you to check up to the minute things for like Fed, state, and city websites, different things, because it is changing in real time. Everything's in flux, as we know, which does create a lot of uncertainty, but there are things that we can still control. And that's how we show up inside of this. So one of the things I want to bring forward is about loans, grants, forgiveness, various disaster relief programs, and allowances. And those are on a lot of different levels, from small local county, city, state, and the federal government. And it's really going to be, it's up to us to do the work and really dig in for us to find out what we can do that will benefit us through these times, which will help create a small amount of certainty as we move through this crisis. And I suggest to you too that as you do this, share it. Because the more information we have, the more we can come together as a collective, the more we feel as though we know we have to do this by ourselves, but we don't have to do it alone. So one of the things that we found is through the Small Business Administration, and the SBA now is offering low interest loans with terms up to 30 years at 3.75%. And that's for small business. For nonprofits, it's as low as 2.75. Dig into these things, and we're going to have a resource page on our website for you to dig a little bit deeper, and we're totally open to questions, and we're going to keep it very current. There's a lot of state-specific things, so look up economic development departments in your state, in your community, and find out, because some are offering different kinds of assistance there as well. And some, it's interesting because as you read it, small business and emergency loans are guaranteed up to 80%, but they don't actually say 80% of what. So it could very well be, you know, if you can get a loan through the SBA, that they're going to piggyback on that. But we'll keep you up to date on that. The most important things, though, are to, you know, like check with places like Chamber of Commerce, check for grants and programs through them, because they're going to be offering different things as well. And all these things are going to tie together and gel, but right now they're really on their back foot. Everybody's inundated. So with that, reach out and contact creditors for yourself. And going back to like some of these things, like when you get into mortgages and things like that, there's something called GSE, which is government sponsored enterprises. That's Ginnie Mae, Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. And these are companies that can give more allowances to you for forbearances in mortgages because they're government backed. And part of this package that is supposed to be going through, hopefully very soon, signed off through Congress, the Senate, is going to be help the government feel as though they're not losing control because Ginnie Mae, Freddie Mac, all these people are doing that. So it's something that's really important to kind of look into. I know it's not like as comforting and as may not feel as heartwarming as what all of my colleagues have been saying here, but it matters, because the more you can take control of what it is that's happening. It's not happening to us, it's just happening. The better we can be more grounded, and the more present we can be when we start asking questions. And those, from there, that's where we really have our own power. So if you go into something like credit cards, mortgages, landlords, insurance companies, anytime you have a bill or you look at it, call them, see what they'll do. Charan, you pointed out beautifully how it is that our reptilian brain goes to a negative bias. We default to that, right? It's like we don't see things that are really good. We make up stories, and it usually defaults to a negative bias, which is this is bad, this isn't. But we're not looking at anything that could be really positive here that we could hang our hats on too. We don't know how long this is going to last. It could be over in 2 months because we've got the world's best scientists working on things. So my point here is, know that we're all in it together, as many of you have said, and validate the people that you talk to when you call these companies, like mortgage companies, like credit card companies, because they're buried. So validate that it's got to be hard for them too, and that you could use their help. And when you do this, there's some important things to cover, which is get their name, the date, the time, the position they hold, their unique identifier, whether it's an employee number or an extension. And because that way, when you call back, you've got something to hang your hat on, had they not put it into your file. So, and check out different things like forbearance, because forbearance is great. Some companies will offer like up to 3 months forbearance, but what does that mean? Maybe that means that you have to pay it all back as soon as that 3 months is up, or maybe they spread it out over time. So ask them. And then really importantly here too, on the other side of this, ensure that you're going to have your credit score is not going to be marred by this. So ask them, does this influence my credit score? How can I be and get information? How can you help me feel assured in this, right? So there's a lot of things to do here, and I know I'm running out of time, but the most important part of all of this is we talk about numbers, is really bringing it back to everything that we've pointed to, and that's how do you want to show up in this? Getting grounded, getting present, checking in with your body, seeing what it's like around the world to see what compassion and kindness can bring. Because in that, when you finally start to get to a place where, when you finally start to get to a place of, my timer went off. When you finally start to get to a place to where you're truly grounded and you're having conversations with these people, you have more power. You're reconnecting to your own power. Because if you attempt to connect or you attempt to negotiate with someone without standing in your own power, without being grounded and present, it's really nothing more than aggressive begging. So when you show up 100% and you're showing up presently with the person that's on the other line, that matters. Dan mentioned it. Connection isn't about proximity. It's about how we show up, and energy comes through the phone too. So check in with you before you make those calls. Get grounded. And just to close out here, one of the things that we do, Tamara Bates is one of our valued EQUUS clients, and she's a financial advisor, and she's actually offering financial coaching complimentary. So contact EQUUS and we'll put you in touch with her. The more you know, the more you can feel some sense of control. So with that, exercise compassion, humanity, take care of yourself, show up as a grizzly bear.
Thank you, Scott. Scott's really, in our household and our business, he's really assisted us to gain some sense of control around reducing our monthly nut that we have to crack. He's forged really great relationships with all of our creditors. We've been really amazed at what people are willing to do. So my advice is just don't make any assumptions. Pick up the phone, get somebody online and find out how they can help you and see how you can reduce your monthly expenditures so that you can financially weather everything. It's a very empowering thing to do. So thank you, Scott. We are going to, by the way, I didn't get to introduce Stephanie Handley. You get to see her there. Stephanie, you don't have to put your camera on if you don't want, but she is our wing woman at the helm, helping field questions. Type your questions into the Q&A feature rather than putting your hand up, and we will field as many questions as possible. At this time, we have about 25 minutes to work with the chats that are showing up and also answer any questions that you may have to any of our panelists at all, or even myself. So we've got the floor open, and we just got a chat from Glasses, Lil Thomas, who said, thank you to all of you for doing this. Wonderful to see you all and be reminded about how all the powerful ways we can be, love, and return to who we are in these unprecedented times. Thanks so much for that. We got a lot of fist bumps from people just really appreciating the power of the empowerment. And while we're waiting for questions to come in, I'm just curious with our 6 venerable panelists, if you have anything you wish to share in light of each other's panel discussion that you'd like to either ask each other or lift up or discuss on our behalf. Someone else wrote,
You know, I have a reflection.
Yeah.
That's okay. And you know, Scott, this really, thank you for wrapping that up. That was just super clear, the way you brought all these strands together. And something you touched on is how we are in ourselves affects everyone we contact, and it shifts the collective. You know, Niccole also, Dan also, Mary Elaine, slightly different topic, but totally all has to do with, I would say, if you look at the talk around the virus, it's all about contagion. And, in these times, everything we do and everything we are is contagious. And it's so important to counteract a lot of the fear that the collective is going into, the mainstream narratives around this with any way, Scott, you talked about very practical ways to ground financially. I talked about some of the ways you can be in yourself. Niccole also, Dan also, beautiful example of how it is to be with another person. So all these things very much so, not only to have things work out better for yourself, but the other person on the other end of the phone, on the credit card company, they're a human being. And this is driving us deeper into our humanity. So that's just, kind of a really strong reflection or strong takeaway for me of how much we are interbeing, how much this is showing us, the situation is showing us absolute interdependence. So that's the reflection.
Yeah, a dovetail on that, Adam, Ram, very well said. And it is through, some of it is logistics that really feed our ability to show up more in our humanity, more compassionately, whether it's time blocking, whether it's you're at the grocery store, spiritual practices, whether it's attempting to be the skillful, keep the grizzly bear as skillful as possible. But one of the things that you said, Ram, that I think is really important is that when you're talking to these people on the other end, whether they're at a credit card company or whether they're a portfolio servicing on a loan, is they're going through the same stuff we are. And without validation, we're just hitting them one more time with one more call where people are in a panic. And you touched on it as well, Ram, when you talked about contagion, and fear contagion spreads. Like you said, Niccole, faster than a virus. Yeah. And then it becomes social contagion. And then pretty soon everybody's going around buying toilet paper and not even knowing why. So I think it really is bringing it back to understanding that the person, no matter who it is that we're talking to, no matter who it is that we're seeing, interacting with, whether they're trying to beat somebody up to get that other roll of paper towel or not, they're all afraid too. But if we show up and we look through their lenses and we deal with them in the currency in which they trade, that can actually help ground them. And ultimately that ends up being something that serves us all.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. We have questions pouring in now. We'll get to all that we can. This comes from Scott Wigley. He says, Mary Elaine, I like that you mentioned maintaining a culture such an important point. Do you have any other ideas or resources for building, maintaining culture in a virtual environment?
Yes, thank you, Scott. That when we opened our doors virtually for our business, I knew that would be a huge hurdle for us to tackle immediately because of that physical barrier, and everyone's kind of touched on it. You don't have to have proximity to be close to someone. There are so many ways to show that you care about someone, that you want your company values to permeate through your company. So creatively, honestly, this isn't super creative. This is back to basics here. Pick up a pen and paper and send a note, send a letter, send a card, show gratitude for every single person on your team and for your clients. Sending 2 to 3, I mean, it doesn't take much, but what matters is that you slowed your life down enough to think intentionally on that person and take time to seal an envelope and send it in snail mail to someone either on your team or a client or someone you care about goes such a long way. And I encourage y'all to do that today, but do it throughout your entire, business for now on. That is something I really tell all my clients. Do not underestimate the power of the pen and taken time to do that for people.
Thank you so much, Mary Elaine. Another question came in from Doug Wheeler, who said, I visited your facility last fall with a client from Coca-Cola. I was fascinated by how you work with animals, and particularly your horses. Do horses and other animals and their behavior have any sense of change and challenge in our world? Crazy question, but thank you. I'll answer this one just because I'm a little bit on the front lines with the horses right now, and it just echoes what Niccole mentioned, that it's my experience that nature is holding us. And every time I look outside, and you all may notice the same thing, I look outside, the animals are doing their world. Yes, if I'm engaging closely with an animal and I'm completely freaked out and my hair's on fire, then they're going to respond to that. But more, they're providing all of nature, the birds, the wind, the trees, your pets. They're providing like this anchor of eternity that you can tap into. And so, and Niccole, you may want to just kind of add to this, that we have, at any moment, we get to go outside, we get to listen to the birds, we get to hang out with our dogs, and I have a great sense that they are deliberately sort of anchoring us to what is real at this time.
If I can add to that too, one of the things that the horses, they're constantly teaching us. And one of the things that I've really gleaned lately is that they hold fast to their routine. And if something changes, they adapt to a new routine, which is something I think is a bit more challenging for us two-legged creatures. Is all of a sudden it's like, you know, that's our routine. What do we do now? Well, we adapt to a new routine. And probably the biggest thing the horses show me continuously, and right now in particular, is they know they don't have control over much. They can control how they show up inside their routine, the old one, the new one, and how they want to adapt to the next one. But it's not a major interruption. It's 56 million year old wise being that's adapting because they know that's what they can control. And it really, once again, it just demonstrates to us that we can control nothing except how we show up in something. So that's one of the things that I'm getting from the horses, really loud and clear right now.
And Niccole, I'd love for you to kind of dovetail in on that. And at the same time, another question came in specifically for you, Niccole, from Susan Morell. Hi, Susan. For Niccole, in the Northern Hemisphere, we are entering the spring season. How can we use this season to transform the lower vibration?
Okay, great questions. Woo! Yes, the animals know, for sure. My dogs definitely know, because they're on a very intimate level. They're going, gosh, you're home a lot. So it's so funny. So they know, and they sense the atmosphere and the climate, and they sense that in their walks and in that nervous system that is very tuned into mine and ours globally. They're with each other as well. Spring season, Susan, yes, here we are. This is a great time for connecting with the eagle. And the eagle, again, this is a longer conversation. Maybe that we'll do a virtual medicine wheel class. Yay. But the eagle is really about expansion and the bigger vision, which we're all talking about, that bigger vision. And how you can celebrate it is, what seeds do you want to sow? What needs to emerge right now in order for me to transmute whatever I need to transmute and or transform, okay? That is a personal, but it's also collective. It's also about being able to honor the seasons of Mother Earth as she changes her gown. And what that can look like is spending time outside, closing your eyes, saging, you know, a little bit of sage, a little bit of fire or doing a fire ceremony, honoring gratitudes, the things that have occurred in your life, the things that you want to sow forward. Maybe having some, this is a great time. We can spend time in our gardens, a great time to honor or plant or grow something that is symbolic for you, that is representative of your new potential. What does the heart want to blossom? What does the heart want to bloom at this time? Seed that, whatever that looks like. We don't, and again, it's uncertain. We don't get to know what we plant looks like, right? That's the great thing. It is it's an unknown. And I like that I don't know how my garden is going to look. I have no idea. But I got some new stuff, I can tell you that, and giving gratitude, and even going outside and laying down some cornmeal or saging, or giving a prayer to your ancestors, those that have come before us and that will be here after us, you know, that will be part of that eternal cycle and change and shift. And yes, it is the virus is that. It's just a lower vibration. It's also a form of illusion. Understanding what is the smoking mirror that I want to pierce so that I can see clearly. So name those, you know, do some ceremonies, have some virtual chats with some friends or a spiritual tribe, if you will, that you feel close and connected. Do the ceremony. Send up your voices in prayer, sing, chant, you know, Ramcharya said it already, dance, yes, you know, share that moment of connecting spiritually and grounding into Mother Earth, because this is our time where we get to make it right with her. Okay.
Thank you, Niccole. And this is for all of the panelists, and maybe we can hear from some of the panelists who have not shared as much in the question and answer. Thank you all for beautiful reframing exercise. I've really appreciated Niccole's story about this being a collective rite of passage. Could you all say more about this? Love you. We love you, Anna. Anna comes from Barcelona, and she's amazing. So anybody want to speak about sort of the collective rite of passage? I think each one of you could speak about that possibility.
I can start. The way collective consciousness works, and this is just my understanding, I'd love to hear also from the person who asked the question what her understanding is. Consciousness has certain ways that it works, whether it's, you know, individual, so-called individual, or so-called collective, and these are like individual and collective. There's a concept of Indra's net in I think the Vedic or Buddhist tradition of the universe is basically a web, infinite web of mirrors, and each one reflects the totality. And, you know, in individual transformation, individual shifting, you know, it's very much in line with what Niccole was talking about, Hamblecha. And every tradition has sacred tradition has some aspect of this, you know, some understanding of this. You know, transformation it's not a fun thing. It's not all flowers and fruit and incense. It can be a very depth process. In a sense, it's dying, and then allowing that death to be total and entering into it consciously, and with a deep sense of surrender, seeing what then emerges. You know, again, Niccole, beautiful. As you plant a flower, you don't know how it's going to happen or what's going to happen. In the same way, transformation is emergent. Yes, we keep our foundation of, you know, schedule and finances, but on a much deeper level, society is in a place that's completely uncharted, and it will be scary. But to recognize that the more we can go into our own process of transformation, the more we're assisting the collective to come to a place that's really new. It's obvious a lot of the structures that we've been living in are unsustainable. We all knew that. I'd say it's important to not rush into trying to define things too quickly. And then also our individual state, this coming at contagion, as we, embrace this transformation on a personal level, we're holding space for the totality to shift more. And the more of us do that, it's inevitable that Indra's net reflect back what all of us are doing. So yes, it's both personal transformation, and each one of us is a part of that totality. And we don't know. So learning to be okay in that. Any other reflections? I'd love to dialogue on this a bit more.
I just always have believed that we are all built to go through adversity, and what we choose to do with that adversity determines how we're going to come out on the other end of it. And I think we're all capable of encouraging everyone around us. And one thing I have noticed is how my own tribe, my own people who I surround myself with on a daily basis, have collectively reacted to this adversity and what they are doing, and how they choose to deal with it in their own mind, and also how they encourage others around them. So for me, for my tribe, and who I am surrounding myself with, and what I'm choosing to fill my own mind with, and what I read, what I reflect on, what media, how often I'm looking into the media, all helps me get through this adversity the way that I need to. But I have always believed that adversity doesn't necessarily mean negativity. It just means this is a challenge, and we can all come out better on the other side if we choose to. So.
A little while ago, we were talking, Kelly, I think, was bringing this up. She asked me, I think directly, maybe on one of our calls, she said, don't you feel like that we just needed a break and needed to slow down? Like the whole world was just kind of spinning and crazy and out of control and hard to catch up with. And then a little while later, I was in a conversation with some other folks, and one of them said, this is just Mother Nature showing up and saying, smack, slow down and pay attention and get connected. And then I was chatting with my husband, Rowdy, and he's like, ooh, I planted radishes in the garden for Olive, who's our little dog, and we have to plant them in a particular way so she can reach over the box and pick her own radishes. I've never seen a radish eating dog before, but this particular little girl, she just loves to go in and pick her own radishes. And as we're talking today, I'm looking out the window here, I'm listening to everybody, and the birds are going crazy. We have this plant that's growing up on the patio here, and they're just like all crazy about this plant that's growing up on the patio, and they want to build a nest or something. And I just really noticed that there's more to notice, and there's more to be with, and there's more to, take your socks and shoes off and connect to the earth. And that's so much nicer and positive, a more positive place to be than standing in line at 3 o'clock in the morning at Costco and feeling that kind of ramped up energy collectively building there. So as an example, yesterday at our local Costco, during the senior hours, a fight breaks out at Costco. And I'm thinking, that's a collective energy that I can walk away from. And I can go into a different place where there's collective energy that I can be with and maybe help foster. So yeah, I'm loving this discussion. I think the collective energy thing is really, really fascinating. And it's just amazing how you just start to note, if you're listening, you slow down enough, you can just start to hear those messages that are coming through little bits at a time. And then you have a moment of clarity that says, this is the message. And this is what all this has been building up to. And I just I just think this is a wonderful time to slow down and do projects around the house, pay attention to the people around you, and connect in this way.
Thank you, Dan. We're getting a bunch of feeds now. Ron Garfield reached out and said, transformation is uncomfortable. Getting comfortable with discomfort is the door we enter for our own and collective transformation. That's a great point. And Elizabeth Daniellen says, agree about the need to slow down and notice Mother Earth, giving us all time out to reflect on what we've done. I'm just really appreciating that the practical is the spiritual and the spiritual is the practical. And whether you're talking numbers or handing out hand gel or time blocking and adversity or Mother Earth or consciousness, this is requiring all of that and all those points. Some questions are still slowly coming in. I'm wondering if the panelists have anything more that they want to share together based on some of the things that have been said so far.
I'd actually love to comment on Ram Charan. You hit the nail, I believe, on the head, and Ron actually seconded that. Transformation is not, it's not all flowers and perfume, right? And Ron was on the money when he said that it's uncomfortable. And we're talking about this collective, and the picture that came to mind is not just how we're dealing with this, but what's on the other side. And it's almost like the medicine of a collective snake, where everything that we've been doing for as long as we've been doing it, we know that it no longer fits us. So we're shedding our skin. And that's a messy process. And there's an enormous amount of sensitivity on the other side of it. But the snake and its medicine knows when what it's been doing no longer suits it, no longer fits it. And it doesn't hesitate. There's no self-doubt. It's time to change. It's time to shed this old skin and start anew. And there's days of sensitivity, AKA vulnerability, that follow that. So, and it's uncomfortable and it's messy. So it's just a picture I had in my head of what it is that's not just being in the middle of this, but what's well beyond it. So anyway, thank you for bringing that forward, Ron and Ram.
Well, I think that this is the gift, right, that we have in front of us. And it is a collective rite of passage. And the rite of passage says, what am I going to die to? Again, with this idea that Scott said of the snake, the serpent shedding its skin. What am I dying to so that I can be reborn? And collectively, we're all at this precipice. We are all moving through the place of severance, where we sever from all that we have known, that is our comforts, our families, yes, we see each other virtually, but this is a different way. And we walk through that threshold and leave everything behind, all of the comforts. And we have to return, but through a different door into another room. And so we have to rearrange and look at, again, I talked about that brutal honesty, is what do we need to shift planetarily, because we're very out of balance with Mother Nature. And we've talked about the excessive panic of toilet paper, right? Like, what is that about? That doesn't even match that matches the frequency of the virus. That doesn't match the frequency of where our spirits need to move and generate fluidity and flow. Okay, so we look at where we are intersecting with that distortion.
Yeah.
And collectively, we have to do this together. We have to look at where is our planet and the Western wall of madness, as I call it, where we need to shift and rebalance and tip the scales in the other way, because the gift of love from our great mother is our birthright. Yeah. It is our birthright.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
And we have forgotten that, so.
Yeah, thank you so much. We have time for one more question, and this really great one came in from Stacy Lowenfield. Hi, Stacy. Thank you for all the words of wisdom and positive energy. Why is there a sense of guilt in enjoying some of the side effects of this quarantine, knowing that so many people are struggling? And I'm assuming that it's the guilt about being able to slow down and have that luxury of time with your family and not having to rush around. So does anybody, knowing that we have about 2 minutes to answer that question, does anybody have a response for Stacy about the guilt associated with slowing down?
I actually, last night, whenever my husband and I were watching Netflix, I looked over at him and said, is it bad that I feel so much more at peace and enjoying this time together as a family when I know so many people in the world are hurting and suffering right now? And at times I do feel guilty for enjoying just my time with my family and my children. And I think that's normal when you have empathy and you have compassion, and you know what other people are going through. But I think it's important to tell yourself, when you're telling your story in your mind, like, this is wrong. No, it's not wrong. This is my reality. This is what is for me right now. And what is true is that I have my family. I have food in my fridge. I have my health right now. The weather is beautiful. Nature, God is good. Nature is good. And that's what I should be focusing on right now. And it doesn't mean that you don't care and you're not empathetic about other people's struggles, but we will miss what is good and what we should be appreciating right now if we let that guilt consume us.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Mary Elaine. And I would just add that our joy is part of what we want to infuse in the world. So little moments of happiness, when you're happy, when each person is happy and feeling, even if it's a micro moment of gratitude or joy, that's part of infusing the collective. So everybody, we are out of time. This webinar will be recorded, and we have a resource page on EQUUSinspired.com. It's on our homepage. It says COVID community resources. We will be adding to it every day. It will have the whole plethora of resources, from spiritual to emotional to financial, to business resources, everything that we can get our hands on that we feel are useful to you. So do check it out and share it with your friends and your colleagues and your family. We are super inspired to be of service, and we will be doing more webinars and more classes and bringing together more of our really talented EQUUS community to assist through this and help everybody navigate this transition with great ease and wisdom. We're continuing doing coaching. We are doing wisdom circles, which are very powerful and amazing. If you want to know how to reach any of our panelists, just reach out to us, connect@EQUUSinspired.com. And we will put you in touch with Tamara and any of the faculty Tamara who's giving these free financial advisory calls. So please consider us an ongoing, evolving resource. I know that every one of these panelists care deeply for you and would be there for you, and their inbox and their phones are available. And lastly, we just urgently encourage all of you to stay home. If you stay home, we can flatten the curve. We can save the lives of healthcare workers. We can save the lives of people we love. We can save a bunch of lives. We can actually end this virus. It's in our hands if we just stay home. So encourage your friends and your family to stay home, lock down, stop the spread, and we will do this. And we will just close with a one-word checkout from each of our panelists, starting with Mary Elaine and going in the order that they shared.
Love.
Connection.
Hope.
Gratitude.
Resilience.
We love you, everybody. See you soon.